Virtuele munten, reële risico's. De enige garantie in crypto is het risico. Deze reclame- en sponsorvrije podcast wordt gemaakt zonder subsidies en is bedoeld als entertainment. Het is geen financieel of ander professioneel advies. Bitcoin is een permissieloos, veilig netwerk. Euro-spaargeld is een garantie op koopkrachtverlies. Luisteren naar een podcast verbruikt elektriciteit.
Hi there, dear listeners. This is the Always Value Bitcoin podcast, or the Alles voor Bitcoin podcast. I'll switch to English for the occasion. It's the 1st of January 2025. It's block height, or we are at block height, or height. 877,353. One Bitcoin is $93,852 or 90,635 euros, and that's about 18,506 Big Macs. Who will not eat a lot of Big Macs is, of course, the elites in Bitcoin. So we, the plebs, the poor sods that mine and run nodes or do podcasts or write blogs or try to onboard real life people like people on a market or farmers or people who own a bar or run a restaurant. Those people, well, they are stuck with being lonely at New Year's Eve, and instead of trying to get some lobster at the pool with a lot of beautiful women surrounded by cars and lots of middlemen, we are trying to convince people to use actual Bitcoin and not try to trust with middlemen, or don't try to discourage self-custody. You heard it here first. I'm not that pleased with seeing a certain someone we all love to hear talk about Bitcoin and onboard people on a grander scale, to see that guy run a New Year's Eve party surrounded by all kinds of middlemen. And that's the main subject of this podcast. But also I want to do a small detour first. Welcome also to all the European people and the plebs that are stuck now with the travel rule. A while back, a few years back actually, we had this travel rule tried out for the first time with the Trezor wallet company that tried to implement this, I think in Switzerland only back then. And they had a lot of backlash because they one-sidedly implemented this travel rule. For those of you who don't know what the travel rule exactly is, in Europe there's a rule that says that you have to, if you make a transaction of any sort, even for one Satoshi or one Bitcoin or whatever you like, you have to do a full KYC to both ends. So the sender and the one receiving the funds need to be identified by that service running it, be it an exchange or whatever. So it's amazing to see that, first of all, this law got established in the European Union. They are seemingly trying to do some innovation and at the same time trying to establish themselves as being the trailblazers for a regulation regarding Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. So that's a bit sad. This podcast was started as a sort of, let's say, critique of these first inklings of that law. And while the European Commission was establishing that very text. And now we are almost 3 years further down the road, and this law got not only voted in, but also worded even more strongly than expected. Not on all fronts, to be honest, but the travel rule is one of those things that will, let's say, put a stop to many fintech companies or to many ways of working we had before. So this dystopian reality that we feared would be established is now a real reality. So welcome to the really real world, like the quote in The Matrix says, because you have it now. You have it on your plate. And what angers me a bit is that the people in Europe hardly resisted this. There were a handful of people that really tried to write open letters or have some form of resistance to this, be it on a political or a regulatory level. But most of these things, or most of these initiatives, I must say, didn't attract that many people. Let's say that we were like with a dozen at most. And in the end, these laws just got passed while everybody was watching Netflix or was, trying to root for songs or whatever garbage there was on television. So here you have it, a draconian law that will, limit the use of crypto in general, be it if you're an altcoiner, shitcoiner, corporate blockchain people that try to establish themselves in the real world, having on and off ramps, but also mainly, of course, this will hit right in the gut of many Bitcoin companies. Which brings me to Strike. Jack Mallers is, of course, one of our heroes, and maybe, just like Michael Saylor and many others, these heroes need a bit of a kick in the guts as well, because if you are such a hero, if you want a free world, if you want Bitcoin as a standard, then you have to also adhere to that way of life and that ideology, I think. And that's what's missing most of the time, because they, kind of roll over like trained poodles whenever the European Union tries to do something or make them dance and jump up and down whenever they say. So Strike was the first that on the very, very first day of this law being implemented, immediately rolled over and said like, hey, you want me to jump? How high? And on the very first day, they sent all their customers in Europe as a nice message saying that the travel rule would be implemented, and immediately you would be confronted with like let's say, a sort of a temporary measure where you have to establish that if you send out some Bitcoin, for example, that you bought on Strike for fiat, then you have to establish if that is sent out to a wallet of your own holding or someone else's wallet. So good luck with that. I downloaded or I uninstalled that Strike app immediately after I saw that, because I don't expect a company on the one side to roll over like this. On the other side, and that's the other narrative, of course, you cannot expect that a company with an official bank license just ignores the law in Europe. So that's a bit of a sort of established problem now, and I don't see much resistance at all. So it's not that Strike said like, yeah, okay, we're gonna implement it, but as soft as possible, or we're gonna just shut down in protest until this is resolved. No, they just rolled over and they said like, hey, if you want full KYC, if you want this travel rule, then we will gladly do so and implement it across our app. So that's not nice to see, but it is expected, of course, because we have middlemen. And that's the main problem actually right now in Bitcoin, I think. Our middlemen are taking over. And Bitcoin was actually invented to get rid of middlemen, to get rid of the bank being a permission engine and saying like, okay, you can send money or you can't because we said so. And Bitcoin should not be having this permission grid, and it's established now, and many people, at least in Europe, will be confronted with this and will see that they need to bend over and say like, oh, please, can I have my Bitcoin back? Then you have the people that own their own keys and they say like, yeah, I'm not impacted at all, because I have my own node, I have my own keys, I have my own wallet, and Byte.B. That's all fine and handy and dandy, but in the end, you want to do something with Bitcoin. And if you own your own keys and have your own node, that's really cool. But if you want to buy something from a company in your local area, for example, you have to do it in some way. And either these companies say like, oh, you want to buy, let's say, a good of €1 for Bitcoin. Well, that's nice, but can I have your ID, please? Or these companies can just ignore all that and say like, no, we don't care about that, and we do what we like. So we will see a split between the companies that want to be on the up and up and say like, hey, we do it really like the draconian EU laws subscribed for us and want us and directed us, or we just ignore it and do whatever we like. And sooner or later, these companies will be made an example of as well. I'm sure they will pick out some, or they will choose to go after certain companies that don't follow these rules exactly as defined. I don't think they have the mechanisms and the personnel to actually go after everyone, but they will set some examples, and you can see it coming from a mile away. Also, they will see to it that a bank account, for example, will be used as a weapon. So anyone doing business with Bitcoin and not following these rules exactly as they stipulated, then you risk of being, let's say, judge dreaded from a bank level and being unbanked in Europe. So with all that being said, welcome to 2025, where the EU has finally openly chosen the path of totalitarianism, where they will block innovation, they will block free trade, they will block fintech, and they will make it as hard as possible to use hard money. And why is that? Because their own Mickey Mouse euros, their own helicopter money, their own monopoly money, or whatever you want to call it, will be rolling off the printers as never before to, well, establish more infrastructural work, more so-called social systems, and handing out more and more cash to whoever needs it. And that way they will establish their own power even more. So this all sounds a bit weird, and it makes you think maybe about a system long ago in the USSR. Well, it's more and more going in that direction. Our central bank, the ECB, is more and more like the GOS bank in the USSR. In the Soviet Union, they, well, could, let's say, steer their own economy as they wanted, because they had no or little oversight onto who got the money. So in general, saying we are now in a Europe where a central system with 3,700 people working there in Frankfurt are now printing money like never before, or adjusting the money supply as they see fit. Also in the other direction is possible, of course, and they establish some sort of taxes, very high taxes. I live in Belgium, where you also have 60% tax rate now, which is really hard to overcome for just normal plebs. And on the top of that, you have also a system where all this money is assembled in a central place, so to speak, centralized, digitalized, and now they are distributing that to their friends. And their friends is not always the same group, of course. One time it's green initiatives, the other time it's heavy industrialized stuff, or polluters, or bankers, or a whole series of really socialist, borderline communist initiatives. Whatever it may be, they will throw a lot of money at it, because their money is not actual money, but printed vouchers, printed consumer tokens, or printed war bonds. And you see them throwing massive amounts of these funds and fiat imaginary funds to war and debt. So we have Bitcoin. We finally have a system where you have hard money, where they do not just get away with printing more because they can't. And here comes the next problem. So I'm coming back to that first item about Michael Saylor's New Year's Eve party. And I think personally that I will not say disgusting because that's something else, but it's disturbing to see that the elites in Bitcoin are now popping up. And usually if I see all the people taking selfies with Michael Saylor at that party, there are a few things that that are strange. First of all, you see people from the gold mining, people from mineral investing, people from housing and retail popping up there. These people never spoke out openly. A few, of course, did, but many of them never spoke out about Bitcoin. And now all of a sudden they are really buddy with Michael Saylor. And also a lot of women were showing up there, which everyone who shows up at some Bitcoin meetups or Bitcoin conventions knows that the percentage of women is rather low. But all of a sudden, at such a New Year's Eve party at Michael Saylor, it's a swarm of nice women, passing by to take selfies with everyone. So also we see a lot of differences here in what these people actually do for Bitcoin. They are all playing some kind of middleman or some kind of role in the traditional banking or traditional business system and the traditional stock market system. So let's say it's out in the open now that Michael Saylor plays for the team that is playing the middleman for the world. That's not a secret, I think. I guess he hinted at that many times before. But if you're a Bitcoiner and you're like going to local meetups, where they, let's say, I was at a local meetup of the Node Runners in the Netherlands a few days back, and there you see people just socializing, drinking beers, having a laugh, and playing some music, and getting a pizza, or just walking around and talking and just doing normal people stuff and talking about Bitcoin, of course. And then you have Michael Saylor, who is, surrounding himself with Wall Street types. And maybe we should open our eyes for that. There are people who actually run nodes and plebs that mine and run nodes or try to onboard people. And then there are the middlemen who run actually nothing and mine the plebs. And we are their resource. We are the people giving him and his surroundings the necessary attention. We give him the necessary credit. We give him the necessary likes and shares, because whatever he says, we share it and we do our best to further Bitcoin. However, the other way around doesn't happen that often. If someone really establishes something in a local area, let's say Berlin or Amsterdam, and they do a lot of work on boarding local businesses, they hardly get any recognition or attention. More so, there is no help to be expected from higher up. If you need funding for that, you can usually go F yourself, because those Wall Street types have money enough, but all that money comes from the fiat world. So isn't it rather interesting that the main people throwing that party and dragging all the attention to themselves are the very same people that actually got big in Bitcoin because of the fiat world? They can get loans, they can get in debt, all on the fiat dime, all of living off that fiat world. And they establish themselves in our space. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be us against them, but it's again evolving in that direction. So, and then I want to say something more daring. Most of the people showing up there are invited, of course, and you have the choice to go or not to go at to such a party. But if you go and align yourself with these people and take selfies with Michael Saylor and so on, then you align yourself with the middleman gang. And that middleman gang are, in fact, the enemies of Bitcoin. They are not straight up enemies, like the fiat world has many enemies of Bitcoin, but they are kind of the same. They disguise as Bitcoiners, or they cosplay as Bitcoiners, or they are real Bitcoiners, knowing damn well that they need to establish themselves very rapidly, and that's all cool, but why do we keep helping them with attention? Why do we keep helping them with showing up at their conventions and their speeches and laughing and applauding anything they say? If they say a one-liner like, sell all your shares for Bitcoin except the one you're sitting on, why are we applauding for that? Because it's bullshit and we know it. No one is going to really sell their shares except the one they're sitting on for the Bitcoin. No one is actually doing that. And if you see it in a more philosophical way, Michael Saylor says a lot of BS as well. So maybe we should dare to speak up. I think Michael Saylor is great for getting attention to Bitcoin, and he drags a lot of people into it, I'm sure. But at the end, he sells MicroStrategy stock, not much else. And maybe if you align yourself with him, you are a middleman as well. And if you see through the list of the people that, got in front of a camera over there, it's strange to see, to say the least. Also, the big guys are there as well, the people that speak as one voice for Michael Saylor and align themselves with it. The small group is established, let's say, and there are a few podcasters there are a few venture capitalists there, and it's actually a bit strange because those people are sitting on piles and piles of money, be it Bitcoin or fiat, doesn't matter. They could do so many good things to help along Bitcoin and to help along the local communities. But I know a few people that are trying to establish themselves for really cool Bitcoin projects that are just coded with 2 or 3 people and help blind people understand Bitcoin, or do lending, or do all kinds of stuff that really helps even the bigger companies in the end. And they are really begging for funding. And then you see the Wall Street types eating lobster with Michael Saylor. It's no, I'm not feeling it, to be honest. Also, just from the looks of it, if you look at some shitcoin parties who really want to establish themselves as well and want always to be present on social media, let's say, and you compare it to that party, well, it's not much different. You have a main man, a one-man show, and people wanting to take selfies with Michael Saylor in this case, and dancing girls, and all kinds of food, and a pool, and so on. It's cool, it's all dandy, it's all really nice, but you can see that at any shitcoin party, and in essence, maybe it's the same. One guy is mining fiat and attention from plebs to establish himself in this space, and another are just selling shitcoins with the same means. So that's just my opinion. You can have a lot of other opinions and different takes on this, but that's just the way I see it. Do I hate Michael Saylor? No, not at all. I see that he educated a lot of people and probably onboarded more money than I ever will. But on the other hand, maybe Bitcoin should stay a bit more leveled and with both feet on the ground, instead of trying to be royalty or elites or emperors or whatever you want to call it. Also missing from that list are the real OGs in Bitcoin. The list of guests, people who really did a lot to establish Bitcoin between, let's say, the very beginning until 2017. I don't see those people turning up there. Maybe they were invited and just said like, no thanks, that can be, but I doubt it. I think that many of those people were just not invited because Michael Saylor doesn't give a damn about those early adopters and those early miners and those early podcasters and philosophers and educators. Maybe it's time that we turn the table on all this bullshit and call it as it is. This is a takeover from middlemen, and those middlemen will establish themselves as the buddies of all Wall Street types, and we as plebs can do something about it by not giving them the proper attention they so hardly want. So don't work for these people, don't establish those people on their stage, because they are taking over the stage. And as we know from the fiat world, as soon as you have the stage, it's very hard for anyone to climbing up on that stage and get some attention for other projects or getting attention in general. So yeah, maybe we need to open our eyes for that. I'm using this podcast to say this. I don't reach that many people, but I want to just say, people, we need more activism. We need more activism, especially in Europe, but also in general. Bitcoiners, don't let your golden opportunity, pun intended, of a lifetime be taken away by a few Wall Street buddies at a pool. That was it for today. This was always Value Bitcoin. See you on the next one. Bye bye.